and that will be sent out sometime tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. If you want to go back and reference anything that's covered during the session, you can certainly do so in that recording. Also attached to that is going to be a questionnaire. We're constantly seeking your feedback as students and alums here at WGU. So it should take you no more than 2 minutes to fill out that survey. I'll also share that in the chat as we get going here, as well as our Career Quest page with our full menu of options as far as the sessions that we've already run, the sessions that we do have the rest of this week and into next week. So feel free to check those out. I will just share, this is a great opportunity. We're constantly trying to bring up to people, hey, like expand your professional network, connect with individuals across the country, especially if you're a current student, connecting with other students here at WGU or alumni. So I would say, like, if you're interested and you want to expand that professional network, in the chat, also share your LinkedIn profile and connect with each other and really try to build that out. So certainly take advantage of that. And from here, what I will do is I will pass it over to Renee. Renee, the floor is yours.
Amazing. We can see the screen, just double checking. Okay.
We're good.
Perfect.
We're good.
And yes, I am going to second that. Definitely network where you can. The number one reason you get promoted is who you know. I mean, not so much nepotism, right? It probably still does exist, but definitely that networking goes a really long way. I actually have my job now because I kept in touch with somebody I went to school with. So you never know. So speaking of a little bit about my job, I'm just going to kind of cover a little bit about my career with Marriott, kind of show you why I have so much knowledge about the company and kind of what we do here. As you can see, I've gone throughout a few different brands, as well as in different locations throughout the US. So I started my journey with Marriott in Costa Mesa, California. So I'm from California originally, born and raised. Went to school at Long Beach State, so smaller state school just south of Los Angeles. And so I had decided one day to change my major to be hospitality management. And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. So in a mass application of jobs, I ended up getting the guest service representative at the Costa Mesa Residence Inn. Residence Inn for us is an extended stay brand, so it was a very unique place to start. I kind of worked the front desk, drove the company shuttle, so I was definitely happy that I learned how to drive in my mom's minivan. I am only 5'1", so big cars are not my friend. But that was a really fun experience because people are staying there from 6 months to a year. So that extended stay, you really kind of develop a different type of relationship with your guests. And then from there, I went to my internship at the Ritz-Carlton Laguna Niguel, which is in Orange County, California. Beautiful property, learned a lot about the luxury client, luxury expectations. My background is predominantly in restaurants, so that was kind of my first working of a restaurant within the hotel industry. I really ended up falling in love with it because you usually have a little bit better hours than standalone restaurants. The benefits of, hotel discounts are not bad, but you still have a lot of variety throughout the world of where you can kind of live and work. So really did love that journey, and then did our Voyager program. So I am going to talk about both our internship and Voyager programs throughout the call today. Voyager is our postgraduate manager and training program. So I did that again in the food and beverage department, and that is at the Ritz-Carlton Dove Mountain, which is in Tucson, Arizona. Was out there for about a year and 3 months where I transferred back to California, but in San Diego. So shout out to the person on the call from San Diego, miss it. But from there, I had a multitude of roles in my kind of 4 years there. Went from supervisor to assistant general manager of a restaurant to general manager of a restaurant to outlets manager, kind of overseeing like all of the food and beverage outlets. So kind of a director of restaurants role. But that was a super fun hotel, massive. It's right, if you've been to San Diego, right in downtown. It's right next to the convention center. So it just was every week was a different group in house, which kept things really interesting and dynamic. I really fell in love with the convention style business. So a lot of big meetings, events, things like that there. 1,353 rooms, so a lot of rooms. But then kind of, COVID hit and all of us had that internal crisis of what am I doing with my life? Maybe not all of us, but at least me. And so I was like, I've worked in 16 different food and beverage operations at this point. What's next? So that's where I pivoted into this recruiting role. Again, it was because I kept in touch with a colleague from school. And so now I am the recruiting manager for our university programs overseeing the Northwest region. Now you might be like, what? We're all over the country. How does that fall into your territory, Renee? There's a map at the very end that I will show you, but we do base it on where your school's location is. I understand your school is unique, but the home base would be within my region. So I can place you throughout the United States, though. So just want to make a note of that. All right. So enough about me, and now a little bit more about just our company as a whole. If you're not already aware, Marriott is the world's largest hotel company. So I swear this slide is outdated every time I post it because it's always changing. So I think right now we're at like 9,300 properties worldwide, but in over 140 countries and territories, and a multitude of languages spoken. We definitely want to represent our guest base within our associates. So that's why we really embrace a lot of multicultural locations and languages within the company. At one point, even, I want to say it was the Ritz-Carlton Toronto, had 110 languages spoken just in their building. So that is pretty impressive. I definitely really enjoyed that part about working for Ritz-Carlton brand. Uh, Speaking of brands, we have a billion of them. Uh, I don't know if any of you have stayed at any of these. Feel free to drop your favorite ones you've stayed at in the chat. But as you can see, we have a lot here. We're at around 37. I always put an asterisk at the end of that because I feel like there's always a new partnership or something in the pipeline. But around 37 is the number of brands we have right now in our portfolio. Not all are represented on this slide because some of them are a little bit more conceptual. But you can see the slide is broken out into classic and distinctive. So our classics are really what you think of like when you stay at a Marriott and you know what it's like, right? The cookie cutters sometimes versus our distinctive are more of the like very unique kind of tie in the local area. I don't know if any of you have ever stayed at like a W. I always call it kind of like flashy, sexy luxury. Renaissance, they always make sure to bring in like local food within a certain mile radius. So the ones on the right there under distinctive are usually fun and funky and very different at every location you go to. And then you can see it's tiered between kind of our longer stays, our select service, and then up to premium and luxury. So again, we want so many brands because some people are like, I didn't even know some of these were Marriott's. We do this because we want to attract as many people as possible, not just for our guests, right? We all have different styles that we like when we travel. While I've worked at a few Ritz-Carltons, I am a courtyard girly. I am fine with a bed and a bar and let me fall asleep. So not everybody likes to travel like that. So it's good to have that differentiation for our guests, but also as an associate, it's nice because not every brand is like maybe the perfect fit for you. So it's always nice to be able to kind of shop around, if you will, and work at different brands and see which of those brand cultures maybe you're more attracted to than others. So very fun stuff. This is one of my favorite slides. I think it's has to be in every Marriott presentation by law. It is our most iconic kind of quote and photo, but the quote of if you take care of the associate will take care of the guest, and the guest will come back. That is a Mr. Marriott quote. It's a big part of our culture. Working in a service job, if any of you have done it before, whether it be even retail or hospitality, it can be very taxing and challenging at times. So we definitely like to put our people first, make them feel good about working there, because that positive energy trickles down to how the guest's experience is. I don't know how many of you have ever maybe gone into like a gas station or a coffee shop and you go to order something and the person just clearly does not like their job and how it's not always the ideal guest experience. But this is also my favorite slide because that is Mr. Marriott in the door frame there. We actually started as a 7-seat root beer stand. Oh, wait, actually, it might be 9 seats. I might be getting that wrong. But it was an A&W franchise. So franchises are big in our world. I represent like Marriott managed hotels, but we have a ton of franchise partners as well. So if you're ever looking at our careers website and you're like, that Residence Inn or whatever Marriott down the street is never posting their jobs on this site, most likely they're one of our franchise partners. So we do, since we started as a franchise, that is something that we are very much hold near and dear. The other thing that you can't quite see on this slide, it's covered up by the text, but Mr. Marriott, something I do appreciate about the company is kind of the spirit of innovation and embracing change. Right, our world changes, we need to be able to be flexible. And at one point, because this root beer stand was in kind of the DC area, and he realized in these cold winters, not everybody wants a root beer float, which is shocking. And so Mr. Marriott started to be like, what can we do? And so Mrs. Marriott actually spoke fluent Spanish, partnered with the chef at the local Mexican embassy, and learned how to make traditional tamales and chili con carne. So they started selling root beer with tamales and chili con carne. I don't know if I love that combination personally. I haven't tried it, so I shouldn't knock it, but it seems a little funky. But then Mr. Marriott also started to notice that people were taking food to go a lot, and he's like, So he started to ask, and he was very close to one of, I can't remember which airport, but he realized that people were taking food for their plane rides. And so he started the concept of airline food and like just food in general being offered on planes. So he was one of the original founders. That was actually, if you look at our history on our company website, that is actually a venture we were in for quite some time. And there's a classic picture between United Airlines and the Hot Shop was the name of our root beer stand. So anyway, I just love that story because it kind of just shows that spirit of innovation, staying relevant and staying ahead and on top, right? It's obviously helped us to become the world's largest hotel company. So this is kind of a big snapshot of kind of our company and some of our cultural things that we have within for our associates. So something we launched last year was our career roadmap. What that was is it's within our learning platform. Basically, if you're a front desk agent or a housekeeper and you're like, I want to be a director of sales, there's learning paths within our learning platform where you can kind of select and it'll basically take you through that route. And it assigns you trainings of skills that you would need to develop. Uh, Maybe some like technological, if there's a certain software, it'll have those trainings in there as well. So it's a really great way for associates to kind of think outside the box, strive, and grow their careers. So it's been really fun. I've poked around there a little bit and I'm pretty impressed, you guys. It's a lot of work to keep up learning platforms, if any of you have ever studied that in school, because it's got to stay relevant in multiple languages. So it can be very, very big task to do. Then we've got our classic quote in the center there again. But then as far as our social or sustainability and social impact, so we have a variety of different things that we do in this area. So every associate for us has to get um, a human trafficking training. It's an unfortunate part of our world. But I will say, especially having lived in San Diego and worked in San Diego for 4 years, there was several human trafficking stings. We helped with the local PD and saved a lot of young people's lives. So if it wasn't for that training, who knows if those signs would have been identified. So stuff like that. And then there's like sustainability in the sense of if any of you have been to a hotel recently where they've got those big pump bottles on the shower wall, that's a big push for us to be able to reduce our carbon footprint with those tiny little plastic bottles. Although I know so many people love to stock up their house with them, it is really wasteful. And so once we figured out the science or technology, if you will, behind making those tamper-proof, the bulk bins tamper-proof, then it's something that all hotels will have to transition into in the next few years. So it's just some examples of that. The other thing that properties also have to do is part of their brand standard audit. And every hotel goes through an audit to make sure that they are kind of abiding by the parameters of their brand. one of the things is a Go Green initiative. So every hotel does it a little differently. I worked at a hotel where we grew an organic and sustainable food garden from the compost we used based on kind of scraps from the restaurant. So it can take a lot of different ways, but that's another way we kind of uh, have that. And then inclusion, we have our associate resource groups. So the associate resource groups are a variety of different groups. You have some for parents, some of them are like next generation, so those are for young leaders. And it's just a kind of a group of your peers, and it's throughout the globe. And you can kind of share ideas of what you're doing to help move the needle for your group. Or sometimes, we have frustration, so sometimes it's a good mental health break as well. But that's a really great we just launched those probably like 5 years ago, and they've been really, really well received. So it's been great to see those kind of take off. And then lastly, in that bottom left corner, we have our travel perks and benefits, kind of saving usually what people are most interested in for last. So definitely, like I mentioned on the first slide, big part of why I've loved staying with Marriott so far is definitely those hotel discounts. I actually just got back from 10 days in Colombia, and I did not pay for a single room. So we do have heavy discounts. I stayed on points, but it is a really great perk for our associates, and it's up to 50% off during the holidays. 2 years ago, I was in Japan and I found a courtyard in downtown Tokyo for $40 a night, and that was split between me and my travel companion and included free breakfast. So not too shabby. It definitely makes traveling a lot easier. But then we've also got other classics, paid time off, vacation time, um, and a lot of other things within our HR site. One of my favorites, I call it the Marriott Company Store. You can purchase products from your favorite Marriott brands. So I always say it makes for some really luxurious feeling gifts for people if you don't know what to get them. So tons of stuff within our HR platform, though, with mental health apps and resources to help you quit smoking or to help you with financial planning or nutritional guidance, all sorts of different things. So kind of depending on what you're looking for. This kind of piggybacks a little bit on that learn and grow. So our learning platform has over 8,000 courses across the board. Some of them do have that career roadmap we just talked about, but some of them are just if you wanted to learn how to read a P&L, if you forgot or something. Sometimes it's simple, basic things. Sometimes they're more complex, but they are offered in a variety of languages. So most of them are free. A few do cost. You just ask your department leader, and they would basically let you know if they could approve the cost or not. I do like to keep this slide on here predominantly for that rewards and recognition. So for us, rewards and recognition looks a little bit different in every brand, right? Again, we have to have those different brand identities. I like to give the example of Ritz-Carlton just because they're so extra, they love to go above and beyond. So for Ritz-Carlton, they have something called 5 star. So associates or ladies and gentlemen, I should say, for their brand, that go above and beyond get nominated for 5 star of the quarter. And then every quarter, there's one management associate that wins and one non-management. And then at the end of the year, all of those for the year are put into the 5 star of the year award. And then one person wins for the whole property. Now that one winner gets a week-long paid vacation at any Ritz-Carlton in the world. So they'll pay for flights, your food, all of the things for you and one other person. So definitely takes rewards and recognition to the extreme, but that's for every single Ritz-Carlton property in the world. Now every hotel does different things for rewards and recognition. My old property would do a monthly one, and then you would get like $300 to your check, and then you could choose another prize as well, like iPads and things like that. So just kind of depends on where you're at, but that is pretty sweet for just kind of doing your job. Now, segueing into our opportunities, the things that you're probably the most interested in learning about. So we will cover kind of the top 3 are within my jurisdiction, if you will. And then that last one, the direct placement opportunity, that's what we consider when you just go on the Marriott careers site and you basically are searching for a job and you apply directly to the hotel. While I don't represent those roles, I can try my best to help you. If you did have questions about them, we do have so many opportunities. So sometimes I'm like, I have never heard of that job before. I do my best to try to keep job alerts on, so I'm always kind of reading through them, but I have my scope and there is a vast world within Marriott. So we'll kind of cover that through this. So our hotel internship program is our first one we'll kind of overview here. Our internship program is for those in pursuit of their bachelor's. So if you are in a master's program, you would not qualify for this. Reason being, they are very much entry-level hourly roles. So the idea is that you don't need a lot of experience for them. It's a way to kind of dip your toe into an area of the um, hotel operation and see if it's what you're interested in. They are paid internships in the US and Canada. Outside of US and Canada, it's intermittent based on kind of those countries' laws. I think most still pay. China is one where I think it might be free, but we can cross that bridge if you have work authorization and you're trying to apply to those locations. They are typically about 10 to 12 weeks. Majority of them are going to be in summer, just that's when most people travel. That's typically our hotel's busiest time of the year. There are a handful of hotels that do internships in the winter months. So think like mountain properties, so like um, Park City, Utah, Aspen, places like that, because that's their busy season, right? So just depends on what you're looking for. Most of our opportunities will be in that kind of bucket you see off to the left. So is what we call operations, right? It's what makes the hotel run. So food and beverage is kind of working in the restaurant, whether it be, excuse me, as a food runner, a host, a server. When I did my internship, I was a server, but most people were hosts and food runners. And then banquet operations is basically helping to set up and tear down an event. So you're usually working as a banquet server. So it's great if you are interested in getting into the events field. And then recreation for us, I always say think poolside of a big resort. So California, Texas, Florida, that's where you see a lot of our recreation interns. So it's a lot of helping outside at the pool cleanliness. With big resorts usually means big families. So it's a lot of also activities and fun things for the kids while they're at the resort, as well as the gym and fitness. That falls under the recreation department as well. And then rooms operations is our most highly sought after for kind of internship and voyage program. Rooms for us can be either front office, front desk, or housekeeping. Housekeeping typically you should be more of like a rooms inspector, so you're kind of auditing the room, making sure that the housekeeper didn't miss anything, helping to keep things organized through the day. And then front office, you'll be kind of a front desk agent helping check in, check out, be a part-time concierge, things like that. And then for our limited opportunities, I do want to stress that these are very, very limited. Like I'm talking maybe one a year if we're lucky. A lot of that has to do with, well, aside from culinary, I should say, culinary, we do have a handful every year. But the other ones, a lot of it has to do with the software itself. Sometimes it takes you so long to learn that software that it's by the time you're done learning it, you're out the door, right? Because your 10 to 12 weeks is already up. Event planning is one I like to highlight with that because typically we're not getting an event lead and executing it within that same 3 months. So I think some hotels find it a little bit challenging to kind of provide a good intern experience. So that's why I think we haven't seen as many. HR is one we do see intermittently though. And then other things to note about our internships. So they are based on the hotel's needs. So I beg them every year before we go to campus in fall, because we typically recruit in kind of a school year versus the calendar year. But I say, please, please, please post your internships. They're like, Renee, it is budget season in September. We are not thinking about that. So more often than not, we'll see a big push in January, which is kind of what's happening now if you've been on our careers site looking at internships at all. So they, because they're posted on a rolling basis, I always recommend signing up for job alerts. So if you've already applied to a job with us, you can sign up for job alerts through your job page, which would be at the top right. corner of the career site. If you have not applied to a job with us before, you just scroll down to the bottom of our main page, and there's a Let's Keep in Touch area that's to join the talent community. And within there, you will be able to say, alert me when jobs within my preferred parameters are posted. So it kind of takes the search out of it for you. A lot of not just hotel companies, but companies in general have that function on their career site. So life hack for you, even if you don't work for us, that's something that I would definitely take a look at if there are some bigger companies that you're interested in, just because then you can be one of the first to apply. I kind of mentioned bullet 2 there. 3 is the one that can be the most challenging for some of my candidates. A lot of our hotels do not provide housing. Reason being, that's where our moneymaker is. So sometimes if you're in an area where we don't have any managed properties, it can be a little bit of a challenge for a lot, especially a lot of my schools, just because they're a lot more remote, most of them. And so some workarounds there that I've had some students have success with is if in particular you're looking for a summer internship, a lot of universities will rent out their dorms for the summer. So if you found an internship, even if it's again not with us, and it's near a local university, call them up. See if they'll rent it out to you. It's fully furnished, typically in a safe area, typically walkable. It's all the amenities you need. So that's one. And then another one I recently was put on to was using a traveling nurse website. I forget what it's called. So if you're interested, I can look at the end of the presentation. I have it in my notes, in my OneNote, but super, super beneficial because you can choose to have a private room, a whole private apartment. Yes, Furnish Finder. I see that, Cynthia. Thank you so much. I was like, something finder. So that is a great one because you can put your budget as well, and they're all vetted, safe. So definitely a good thing and resource to use. If you did end up applying to any of those internships, definitely send me an email with that requisition ID number. I think it's around 9 digits. It's listed on every single one because then that'll take me to the exact job that you applied to. In general, if you're emailing recruiters, if there any sort of unique identifier is super helpful for them to be able to look up that information for you quickly. So again, another life hack for you. All right, our HQ fellowship program. Now, this is probably our most fluid program. This actually just came under our team this last year. So we are kind of in the process of building out maybe a little bit more of a robust program. But as it stands today, this is a elevated internship of sorts based out of our headquarters, which is in Bethesda, Maryland. So just DC area. So there is another paid internship. You would be in a department and you're kind of doing a lot of, I always say it's kind of a lot of project management. So typically the fellows will come in and based on whatever the business case is, they'll do projects and kind of be put into teams. And sometimes the two teams will both have to pitch on a business case and kind of go head and head with each other. So it's hard to say when people say, well, what do I do day to day? And I'm like, it really just depends on what's going on at that time. We do recruit for this far in advance. So you would have to, in order to qualify, you would have to be returning to, it's every summer, you'd have to be returning to school in the fall. So it's a kind of complicated way to say it, but if you're a junior right now, you wouldn't be able to apply your senior year because theoretically you're not returning to school in the fall unless you were going into a grad program. Then you would be a rare exception. So if you will be a junior or sophomore or freshman in fall of 2026, then you can definitely apply to the program. Applications typically we open around Labor Day and then we close them in early to mid October, excuse me. And so every year it's a little different. I would say majority of our fellows are within global technology. So kind of knowing how to use or do Python and a lot of like that kind of technology. So just being mindful of that. And if you do apply, definitely be as detailed as possible when you fill out that preferences form, especially in your skill set of like what are all the things, because essentially how we pair up people is based on what the hiring manager's skills that they list that they want. And if you are not detailed in that section, we won't know, right? Um, this year we hired 75 fellows. It's usually between 75 and 100, and we get about 2 to 3,000 applications every year. So do not be discouraged if you did not fall into this. Uh, it is a very, very competitive program, and you would have to be based in that area. I think I said that already, but I just want to reiterate that. Um, then there's usually about 1 to 2 roles in all of kind of where those limited opportunities are in all the business departments. This is also open to those in a graduate program. So some roles are specifically for MBAs only. Some roles they want graduate students. So this is our only program that really kind of flexes into a grad program. And I'm like, I think that is everything for that one. I hope I didn't miss anything. And then our last program is our voyage program. This is the program we will talk about the most. We love this one. So this is our postgraduate manager and training program. Now this slide probably looks a little similar to our internship program. So in order to qualify, you just have to have work authorization for the United States, and then you just have to have graduated in the last 24 months with your bachelor's. So that's where some of those grad students would still qualify for Voyage, or be graduating by August for this year's program by August of 2026. And we do that same cycle every year. So um, if you decided to apply to a different job and you're like, you know what, I don't like this, and you come back, I have that happen all the time. So we do allow that flexibility because we find that, we all make mistakes in life, and sometimes things change in our circumstances. So this year's program, I will say we have filled most of our roles. We're down to kind of our last handful of in the most category over here. We do, if you are accounting, we do have a handful of those, but I'll kind of go through what we look for in each of the departments in the next few slides. But it is a 12-month program minimum. After 12 months, you're able to apply to any role within the company that you would like. It's so easy to transfer with the company. You are paid, and then we do also offer Voyage in over 50 countries. So if you do have dual citizenship, or maybe you came to the States for school, but you want to return home, I have all the recruiters' contact for the Voyage program throughout the world. And so I'm happy to get you in touch with the appropriate recruiter for your home country. All right. Now we'll break it down kind of by these departments. So we talked a little bit about operations when we did the overview for internships, but our operations are going to be those rooms roles, food and beverage, and banquets. So these are going to be kind of you're on the fly all the time. So if you like a different pace every day, if you like thriving in a fast environment, and you enjoy talking to people, enjoy making quick decisions, interacting with others. It's a really great department. I fell in love with operations because it just made my shifts fly by. I'm like, we have so much time that we spend at work. Like, you might as well like what you're doing and have it fly by. So that's where I enjoyed operations a lot of variety day to day. So very, very fun. Not everybody shares my passion. We also do have a few specialty roles here. These two departments, culinary and engineering, are the only two departments that you can have an associate's degree for. So everything else, you would have to have your bachelor's. But for our specialty roles, or these two specialty roles, I should say, you can have an associate. So culinary for us, you're a chef, you're typically stepping into like an assistant sous position. And then for engineering, I like to say it's more of like maintenance. So think of if you live at a apartment complex and something breaks, who do you call? That's kind of what our engineering is. So it's not necessarily structural engineering or anything like that, but they typically have a lot of skills in carpentry, HVAC, refrigeration, um, electrical sometimes. There's also a lot of times where you're just replacing light bulbs or helping someone turn on their TV or unclog a toilet too. So kind of, both sides of the coin there. Um, so it is just a little bit of a different role. I do like to highlight that. Now, accounting for us, this is the only role that we would require you to have an accounting or finance major or minor. That is simply because in order to become a director down the line, those are the qualifications for those director level positions. So it would be a little bit rude to put you into the Voyager program and then say you don't qualify for your next role. So just be mindful of that. If you do have an accounting or finance major or minor and are interested in this department, we do have quite a few roles left. I have one in Chicago, which is where I'm at right now. But I'm happy to kind of share the full list with you if you're interested. So these are ones where, yes, if you like numbers and you enjoy strategy, this is definitely for you. It's a lot more of an individual contributor role than team like the rest of our operations. Now what we call our support roles. Our support roles are by far our most highly sought after by our candidates. However, they're the least requested by our hotels. Reason being, we don't need a billion salespeople to run the hotel, right? We need a bunch of rooms people, F&B people. So if you are interested in one of these roles, I'll kind of go through department by department. You would definitely need to have a certain kind of background just because they are so competitive and highly sought after. So for event planning, we would definitely want to see somebody who has worked with event planning companies that have like a client-facing role. So I have sometimes people say, well, I was, president of my sorority, or I was in an event planning club. Everybody kind of has that as a foundation, if I'm being totally candid. So what do you have that sets you apart from that? So that's why I say that. Sales for us is our only remote position for Voyage. It is a lot of you're following up on leads. You're having to hit your numbers. Your bonuses are quarterly. You have a different structure for bonuses because of that. And so typically we do like to see somebody who has worked in a hotel before. Main reason being selling a hotel is not the same as selling a car, right? All of our hotels are so different. Even if they look the exact same, they're located in two different areas, which means they have two different comp sets and all these things. So we do like to see somebody that's maybe had a little bit of front office experience or some hotel experience because you have a realistic perspective of what it really takes to do something at the hotel and what's possible. HR definitely is one where we are looking for somebody with a high emotional intelligence. We do like to see somebody who has had an operations background just because who are your guests? Your guests are the associates and they really connect with you if they know that you've worked in housekeeping or food and beverage or banquets or something like that before. So you kind of have that clout, if you will, with them if they're coming in expressing frustrations. And then for our revenue management, revenue is basically the team that sets the rates. So they are the ones that are forecasting. They're looking, okay, when I was in San Diego, Comic-Con is our big conference out there. So they're the ones that are setting those room rates to be crazy expensive during Comic-Con. But maybe it's a slower night. And so then they're gonna be the people that also open up the rates to third party, like a TripAdvisor or Expedia, Booking.com, things like that, and help get that occupancy up. And so for this, we typically like to see somebody who has worked at a front desk just because you are checking in, checking out people. You see those kind of trends within what the room rates are, or somebody that's maybe had like an econ background is another benefit as well. I will say for all of these departments, they have been filled for the 2026 program, but I do have one sales left. So if you are interested, definitely apply yesterday. Kind of talked a little bit about why you should consider these roles and kind of what skills you'd have. A little overview of our Voyage journey map. So for the Voyage program, kind of mentioned already 12 months, but you have your onboarding. Within your program, you do have a curriculum assigned to you. So it's all Voyagers have what we call a core curriculum, which is kind of all the same leadership trainings across the board. And then you have your discipline specific curriculum. So that's if you're put in food and beverage, that's what your curriculum is going to be designed around. So it kind of helps to keep some things similar, but also differentials as well. The other thing that I really appreciate about the program is the mini departmental rotations. So about halfway through the program, you should get little rotations to the other areas of the hotel. So we're talking 1 to 3 days, depending on the department. So kind of job shadowing, and you're going to sit in sales and in front office, and you can kind of see how does everything interwork, right? At that point, 6 months in the position, you should kind of know what your job is and what you're doing and how it sort of impacts the rest of the operation. And so then being able to go into those departments and kind of with this perspective of like, why do we do things this way, can really help to drive change, especially all of you who are coming out of school, having just done a lot of case studies, or you're seeing what are trends in technology or the market. And so you kind of coming in, I know for mine, I was like, why do we do this way? Like, this seems very inefficient. And I was able to help change a process that they still use at the hotel today. So kind of fun to know. I left my mark there just because I was being very nosy and inquisitive. Um, then the other part is we do have some specialized leadership learnings as well. So there's some eCornell classes that we pay for you to register for, and just kind of help with some of your executive presence, having tough conversations, things like that. Because those are things that take time to, I won't even say perfect. I don't think anybody's ever perfected it, but to really hone in those skills is a challenge, but a good skill set to have. The big perk with our program is that we do provide a relocation sign-on bonus, $4,000 for US. You just have to be moving more than 50 miles to qualify for it. And that is simply from our friends at the IRS. So they have put that stipulation in place. And so what it looks like is basically it's kind of I say a bonus, but it's like think it's called a sign-on bonus, but for us, sign-on bonus means that it'll be paid out in the first 30 days of you being on property. So you would onboard, and then within typically the second pay cycle, you would get that deposited into your check account if you've signed up for direct deposit. So it's a nice way to say, thanks so much for figuring out how to get from point A to point B. We really appreciate it. Here's some extra cash. You do not have to save receipts. I don't care what you spend it on. You could spend it on beer money. It's up to you. But this is nice because it does give our Voyagers a little bit more flexibility than our previous package. This slide loves to get stuck every time. So, ooh, maybe we'll get to the next slide. There we go. So kind of the overview of the application process. We are almost at the end here. But overview of the application process is you just apply. This is for Voyage, I should say. You apply, then the system automatically sends you a pre-recorded video interview. We would move you kind of on the back end to our respective territories. So all of you would fall into the Northwest region, and then that pre-recorded video interview would be triggered. One of those really awkward, fun things where you're looking at yourself, recording yourself. It's 3 total questions, 3 minutes to answer each question, and an unlimited amount of attempts to get those questions recorded. So just let your personality shine through. Try not to be reading off of a script. A lot of people do that, and we see it all the time. So as much as possible, right? Be as true to yourself. And then assuming we pass the pre-recorded video interview, then it's our preferences form. So that's where we're sending, where do you want to work? What department do you want to work in? So you would choose your top 3 locations, top 3 disciplines, and then we kind of look at what remaining roles we have and decide, okay, is there a fit? Now, at this point in the recruitment season, because we have filled a lot of our Voyage roles, don't get discouraged if you don't make it past this phase. It's truly because we're down to a last handful, and we just find that people are more successful if they're in an area that they want to be in. So food for thought. Obviously, keep in touch with me if you're like, I don't care, I'll go anywhere. That's fine too. We do have some people do that as well. But so then, assuming we have a good fit for you, then we would move you forward to the assessment. This is one of those really fun questionnaires where it's like, what do you like more? And both options are terrible. So you're like, what do you like more? Stubbing your toe or hitting your funny bone, right? And you're like, I actually hate both of those. But it's a sliding scale where there's no middle. So you have to choose one or the other. That is not an actual question. But you can kind of get the idea. So I usually say like sit, give yourself about an hour. Shouldn't take a full hour, but that way you have enough time and you're not feeling like stressed if you didn't set aside enough time. Right, your sweet thinking space, not too caffeinated, not too under caffeinated, wherever you're at. So then once you pass the assessment, then it would be the final interview. The final interview, we actually are kind of in the process of switching up a little bit right now. Previously, it would have been typically with myself. We are starting to have the hotels interview. Not all hotels want to interview, so some of the final interviews might be with me. Some of the final interviews might be directly with a leader at the property, which is really nice, I think, from a candidate experience because you can ask very specific questions about that property should you have them. And then assuming all goes well, it's an offer. So uh, I know I already mentioned our that little eligibility requirements, but those are there again if you are interested. Now I know at the very beginning I mentioned we have our regions here. So we are divided up. I know Ronnie looks like she doesn't have much over here. That's just because that's where our headquarters is. So she handles a lot of our different programs like the HQ Fellowship, and she's working on another kind of specialty program that is to be announced. And then the rest of us are kind of divided up based on region. As you can see, I have a humongous region. I'm the only person with all four US continental time zones. So sometimes if there's delays in getting back to you, I apologize. I don't even know where I am. But I can, just because your school is based in this region doesn't mean I place you in this region. Again, that's why we have that preferences form. So I would be able to place you anywhere in the US. So these are all my other fabulous colleagues, just in case you want to see their lovely faces. But ultimately, I am your point of contact. Okay, and that brings us to our last slide. I think at one point I saw somebody asking about my contact information. This here is my digital business card. If you scan it, it will have access to my LinkedIn. It'll have the link to the um, Voyage application, link to a filter of US internships. And then since there aren't any HQ fellowships posted, there's nothing in there right now, but as well as my email phone number. I don't know if I said that. You can save it directly to your phone. It's like multiple steps to do that. I'm fine if you just add me on LinkedIn, whatever you want to do. But yes, that is it for me. Any questions?
I will remind everybody that this session is being recorded. Uh, Renee just threw a ton of information out, which we love that. So if you do need to go back and reference anything, by all means, do that. So just keep that in mind. If you do have questions, please post them in the chat. I know some people had posted a few questions throughout, and I think as we kind of went through, Renee answered a majority of them. So if you did ask a question and it wasn't answered, just post it in the chat again, and we will read those off. So we'll give people a second to do that as they are posting those. Renee, just wanted to say thank you for jumping in and sharing all of this fantastic information. We certainly appreciate it. And then I do see some questions coming in. Is there anything specific to IT for any of the opportunities that you had touched on?
Great question. That is one that is very new, so we don't have our own slide for it. So I love to forget to talk about that one. So IT for at least 2026 we've filled already, but this is our second year having an IT program. I anticipate them having more. So IT looks a little bit different for us. It is definitely going to be more of a market. So typically you're going to oversee multiple hotels. So answer not right now for this year, but most likely for next year. I'm not sure what grade level you are, but just a heads up. And that would only be for Voyage. As of right now, we don't have an internship for IT. The exception being that HQ fellowship, should you decide to do kind of a global tech realm with that.
And I think you had mentioned it in the beginning too, Renee, like and you weren't going to cover all of these, but property by property, they might
Oh,
have those
yes.
types of opportunities as well. So just to
Yeah.
make people aware, just this is really aimed at some of the specific programs that Marriott
Hmm.
offers. So they certainly, I'm going to assume there's quite a bit of IT positions open
Oh, yeah.
throughout the entire organization.
Hmm.
Next question that came in, are marketing positions falling under those sales type roles?
Great question. Marketing is a weird area of our business in that we don't really do a lot of our own marketing. A lot of that has to do with because we have so many brands. If we let every single brand do their own marketing, it would just muddy the brand image. So sales and marketing is what the department is called on property. However, it is 95% sales. The marketing of it is that you're updating the website with like maybe new menus, or you're helping to arrange photo shoots for images that your hotel is most likely doing a third party, like kind of marketing agency, and kind of giving that content to them to later post. The closest thing we do have to marketing within those programs, like not to say it doesn't exist. So I'll kind of cover the programs first and then the other opportunities. It would be within our HQ fellowship program, and that is the brand management team. And so those are typically you're going to be in a cluster of a few hotels, and you're essentially creating those decks that disseminate to the properties of like, these are what you can use for these particular types of marketing, and everything's kind of in our own internal database. Now, there are some properties at the beginning when we had those classic versus distinctive brands. Those more distinctive brands are where you would have maybe one marketing person on property. And that's because they're the funky ones that like a W hotel is going to have something like a goat yoga on the rooftop, where we probably don't have something in a deck ready to go with that. So just because they're really custom and creative kind of activations. So those types of hotels would have more marketing opportunities. But again, it's usually one person. I don't think I've ever seen a hotel with more than two people of marketing or in the marketing department. So it's kind of a funky part of our business. Not a perfect answer, but hope it kind of helps guide.
No, that was great. Next question, just double checking the remote opportunities. That was only for the sales position, correct?
Yeah, so for Voyage, it's our only sales, and a majority in general of our roles, and if they're based out of headquarters, most people have to be hybrid out of Bethesda. I am in a unique position. So there's only a handful of roles that are truly remote. The sales force is 100% remote, and then a handful of kind of HR recruiting functions are also remote. But those would be our only remote opportunities.
For a full list of the Voyager program opportunities, is that through the QR code where people could view that?
That's a
And
good
this is
question. Yeah, no, that is a common question. So I have that list secret behind closed doors. Reason being, there's constantly offers going out, there's cancellations, there's things added to the wait list. So we don't have that list public facing. Now, I'm not a monster. I'm happy to share. So if you tell me I'm interested in these locations, these departments, I will send you the full list of those locations. Or like what is available in those locations, as well as the salaries for those particular areas as well. The salaries are all set by basically the pay zone, and that's all decided by our compensation team. So I'm always happy to share that list. I don't necessarily always share the exact hotel because sometimes there might be multiple hotels in a market that are available, and ultimately we will kind of choose brand fit, which one we think is the best fit for you.
and when is the best time of year or month to apply for each cycle of the Voyager program?
Yeah, so the best time, especially if you like to have selection and variety, is going to be when we first post them, which is around Labor Day of every year. So because we're in kind of our second semester of recruiting, that's why I keep saying like we don't have any of those things, and that's just because a lot of them were filled in fall. So I usually say right around Labor Day. We do get our needs assessment back, which is our little questionnaire we hand to our hotels to fill out. Um, Usually I have all the data back by July 4th. So if you keep in touch with me and you're curious about next year's opportunities, I always say, reach out to me. I'm happy to send you what we have, at least as of that date and time. Um, and then you can decide if it's even worth it to apply in September when we go live with the roles. I don't want to waste anybody's time if it's not what they're looking for.
And I would say I see questions in the chat, just like asking specifics as far as like what type of opportunities you currently have available. I would say probably connect with Renee
Yeah.
and get that. So for anybody that is wondering, like, hey, what opportunities are still open? What are some opportunities that might be coming down the pipeline? Connect with Renee and have those conversations to see if there is a fit, if there's availability for you, and then obviously go ahead and apply for those. Another one was geared towards the fellowship program. Are there
Mhm.
opportunities for graduate students who aren't in an MBA program?
So you don't have to be in an MBA program, just within, you have to be enrolled in a program at the time that you apply, and then also returning to school the following fall. So if you're going to be in your grad program this upcoming fall, 2026, and you'll also be returning to school fall 2027, then you would be able to apply. I hope that it's a little bit complicated for that one.
Awesome. And I'm just keeping an eye on the time. Renee, one, we so appreciate you jumping in and sharing all this information and answering the questions that we do have. I do want to give you the opportunity though to wrap up and share any insights, any closing remarks, anything that you wanted to end on. Maybe there was a question that we didn't ask you that we should have asked that you feel like would be crucial, but just wanted to give you the opportunity to kind of close us out here.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is there's so many different opportunities, right? As stated before, just kind of represent our university programs just because that typically is the next easy transitional step from our recent grads. But there is a just wealth of knowledge and options out there. So happy to always help, but I definitely recommend signing up for those job alerts if you are interested in a department or area of the business that maybe wasn't in one of our captured in kind of our programs here. It just makes it so much easier. And then the other thing I like to say for those direct placement roles that we have, those roles are typically looking to be filled within the next 45 to 60 days. So our job postings are considered aged or old at around 60 days. So if you see something that's been posted for like 40 days, I honestly wouldn't even apply. Like our application is very, very easy. It's like 4 clicks, but if just because most likely they've already have a candidate in the pipeline or they maybe don't, but it's too short of a time span and they'll end up closing the job and reposting it. And we do that so that hotels don't just let that job sit there and sit there and sit there and sit there for 6 months and you've been like waiting, 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 you haven't heard anything back. That's why we force them to kind of close at 60 days. So I just make that note so that if you are applying right now, but you're not going to be available until May, you shouldn't be applying right now unless it's like you're able to do both, right?
Awesome. Renee, thank you so much for jumping in and sharing all of these insights. I would encourage people if you do want to connect with Renee, make sure you are doing that and checking out what opportunities they still have available, or if you did have follow-up questions. She's gracious enough to provide us with her contact information, so certainly follow up there. And we thank everybody for taking some time and jumping in, and I really hope people take advantage of these opportunities. My previous school that I worked at, we did a ton with Marriott and the Voyager program, and it really is a fantastic opportunity to be able to advance in your career, especially with such a fantastic organization and company like Marriott. So I would encourage people to really take advantage of it. But Renee, thank you again for jumping in and sharing this information. We certainly appreciate it.
Of course. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me. Good night, everyone.
Have a good night, everyone. Take care.